Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with Brian Leonard, also of WagerTalk.com. Big weekend college and pro action. Brian, last week, college football, to me, that had to be the most exciting week so far of the season because there were so many key matchups in teams that are jockeying for the top 4 positions in the playoffs this year, which definitely is adding more excitement to the college football season. One of the games last week, LSU, Alabama, was a game that had a lot of implications for the top 4. LSU played their guts out last week against our Alabama. Had the game won, when Alabama fumbles at the end of the game, kicked the winning, what we thought would be the winning field goal, and Alabama drove down the field, got into field goal position, and had to rely on a kicker, and he got it through to send it into overtime, and then, of course, they lost in overtime. Do you think this LSU team, can they pick themselves up off the mat after a loss like that?
It was interesting. One of the gentlemen that comes to our Tuesday meeting, he went to that game, and he said there was 100,000 people in the stadium, 200,000 people outside partying, watching it on TV, which tells you how big of a game that was. It was a night game out there, and if you had LSU in that game, that was a terrible loss, getting 6.5 points, losing by 7. But those things happen. I mean, it's not like Utah dropping the touchdown on the 1-yard line and changing the course of that game. But that's sports betting, and that's the way it is. But yeah, LSU from that huge night game against Alabama, now having to play a team that's an off a bye, it's a very tough spot for them.
And would you agree with this assessment? Alabama, LSU is basically the college version of Pittsburgh and Baltimore as far as a physical, hard-hitting game and the way they don't like each other. It used to be Alabama, Auburn, and now it's starting to come back more so. But for the last 5 years, LSU and Alabama has been the premier game.
Well, we talked about that when Mississippi played LSU, how physical that game was. This was very physical also. So you've got LSU in just a span of weeks playing these big physical opponents and coming down to the wire in them. And I usually like to go against those type of teams. I don't know what you have here. But, it's a great rivalry. It's very similar like the Baltimore-Pittsburgh, where whoever's getting the field goal, you could just make them a blindly field goal. That's the way it is. Whoever the home team is in this, you have to take a look at, but wherever the dog is. But it was a great game, and I think it may come back to haunt them a little bit this week.
Well, this is my free pick, and yes, you do know me well. I'm coming with Arkansas, and for 2 reasons. One, this is a play as much going against LSU as it is taking Arkansas. And I'm going to tell you, Brian, Arkansas is winless in conference play, but they're underrated. They're absolutely underrated. This team is much better than their record would indicate they are.
Well, they lose by 1 to Alabama, lose by like 1 to Texas A&M. I mean, they were in virtually every game.
They ended up losing, I think, in overtime with Texas A&M. They had to lead that whole game, and then but they can run the football. This is one of the best running teams in the conference. But for the first time, they've now got some balance where they're throwing for over 200 yards a game. Before, you could just stack the line against Arkansas, put 8 men in the box, try to stop that running game, and the quarterback, struggled. But he's confident this year, and the running game's so good that it is opening up the passing game. And once the passing game's working, it goes back and opens the running game up even more. And the last thing you want to do after a physical game is sit there and have to tackle a team that's going to run the ball down your throat the entire football game, and try to wear you out. I think this is an absolutely great spot for Arkansas, and I think the lines maker's telling you that.
It's interesting. A few weeks ago, since I make lines and I'm a power rating guy, you had asked me to provide you with some lines for the SEC and Nebraska radio show.
I do a Nebraska show,
and I had Arkansas pretty highly rated. Yeah. And I listened to the show after you went off, and
you wanted to make sure I gave you your credit, which I did.
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah.
But they talked about it. They go, I'm really surprised they like Arkansas so much. And I'm thinking, well, just look at the line this week, and you can tell this Arkansas, even though they're winless in this conference, they're a very good team. They're very competitive in this conference.
I give you your due. When it comes to setting the numbers, and we've said it so many times, the way you pound the Golden Nugget with their games of the year back in the summertime when they bring those out, you are a master. It's setting what the true lines should be on these games. And, anybody successful is going to surround themselves with successful people. And you know, I want to give you your credit for that. You can give me the
set me up with some people that are successful then.
You see, I give the guy, I give the guy a compliment, and what's he do? All right. We're going to go ahead and go with Arkansas here, guys. I want to tell you, though, if you want to head over to wagertalk.com this weekend, I've got a 5% play going in college football. We're having a great season, especially in college. We're hitting over 65% for the year in college football, and I've released 7 5% plays this year. Only 7 the entire season. We're 6-1 with them. I've got one going Saturday. If you want to join me, head on over to wagertalk.com. Check it out. Also, be sure to check out Brian Leonard. We're going to be back. Official play here. I've got Arkansas winning this one outright by 7. Well, obviously, they got to win outright. They're a 2.5-point favorite. But I got Arkansas winning this one. They wear LSU down this week. We'll be back with another college football selection. We're going to get Brian's free selection for you. And he's been red hot on these videos. I got to buy some lunches. He's up next. WagerTalk.com.
I'm watching the pregame show on Sunday.